Hey, are you Adam Graham?
The very same. And this is my old-time radio snack wagon.
Welcome to the Old-Time Radio Snack Wagon, where we serve up a bite-sized portion of old-time radio. And now, here's your Snack Wagon host, Adam Graham.
Welcome to the Old-Time Radio Snack Wagon, and this week's snack is a good old-fashioned slice of life. It's fascinating to hear the voices of regular people from decades past. They have different ways of speaking, different accents, different sort of phrases that they use compared to folks today. And it's different than in the movies where people will often use exaggerations or invented accents like the Mid-Atlantic accent. When it comes to hearing ordinary people, radio game, quiz, and audience participation shows are some of the best sources you'll find. And one of the most interesting to me is People Are Funny. In talking about great programs of this sort during this era, People Are Funny kind of gets lost in the conversation, as many more are aware of You Bet Your Life, hosted by Groucho Marx, or Truth or Consequences, hosted by Ralph Edwards. But People Are Funny was a quite popular series. It ran from 1942 to 1961. Art Linkletter was the second host, coming on in 1943 and staying all the way through. At the height of its popularity, a spin-off movie was actually made in 1946. People Are Funny was really centered around stunts. These were never mean-spirited or really extreme, particularly when you compare it to some of the things that has happened both on television and the internet in recent decades. Some of these stunts were simple in-studio events that could be pulled off in a matter of minutes. Others were far more elaborate, taking weeks or even months to complete. This particular incident is in the middle. The two participants had to leave the studio, but we found out what happened within the same taping session. This particular program is from an Armed Forces Radio Service resyndication, and I don't have any idea as to the actual date, but let's go ahead and take a listen to both the setup and the reveal of what happened on People Are Funny.
Roy Rowan, who's first on tonight's show from Hollywood?
Our first guest is Miss Elsie George from Los Angeles.
Hello, Miss George. Now, let's see. You volunteered as a single girl out of the audience.
That's right.
What do you do for a living, Miss George?
I'm a doctor.
A real doctor?
A real doctor.
Dr. George?
Yes.
You're about 20,
in
your late 20s?
That's right.
And you're a medical doctor?
That's right.
Well, that's a surprising thing. And that you would volunteer after seeing well, you could operate on yourself no matter what happened.
Free.
Did you, and you're not married?
No.
We think that people are funny about vacations, Dr. George. When they travel and they meet friends in the summer and they casually get acquainted, and pretty soon they say, you must be sure to look me up when you come to my hometown if you ever do. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Now, people are funny because they never expect these summer acquaintances to actually show up and pay a visit to them. But tonight it's going to happen to you. Here's what's going to happen, Dr. George. We're going to send you out to a nearby neighborhood, and you're going to drop in on a strange family. You don't know them, they don't know you, and they don't know you're going to arrive. Now, you're going to pretend that on your vacation, you met some of their friends who told you, oh, you must know these nice people out in Hollywood, and they told you to pay them a visit. Now, you're just going to drop in, and you'll know about them. We'll give you the information. You got the card, John? Here's the address, and a lot of stuff we found out from the neighbors about these people. You see, they're from Cincinnati, and they have a lot of people back there they know. You got that?
Yes.
Tell them you won't be there long, a week or so. You're just traveling. Think you can do it?
I don't know how.
You've got to pretend that you're really a good friend. You're breezing in for a visit, and would you feel better if somebody else went along with you?
Could I?
Would you like
Another
us to...
one? Yes, please.
Well, all right. and of course, to send somebody along and make it a good story, we should pretend that you're married.
Oh.
Is that all right, a man?
Yes.
Just pretend that he's on. And we'll provide the husband. Would you like to have the loan of a husband for half an hour?
All right.
All right. And, of course, ladies and gentlemen, when people are funny, provides a husband. We don't skimp. Here he comes, Mr. Ted Evans, a 9-foot giant. Shake hands with your new husband, Doctor. Woo! This is the biggest guy you ever saw in your whole life. Ted, you're, are you one of the New York Giants?
No, I'm with the Ringling Brothers Giants.
He's with the circus, the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus. How long you been with the circus, Ted?
2 years now.
Uh-huh. Where do you come from?
Originally from London, England.
Oh, you're an Englishman. Dr. George, what do you think of this, huh?
I don't think I'll lose him anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. For a girl who came to CBS without a man, you must admit you have hit the jackpot.
Yes.
Now, Ted, you and Dr. George are going to leave, and here's what happens. She's going to pretend to be your wife, and you're going to pay a surprise visit. He looks surprised, too. You're going to pay a surprise visit to a Hollywood family who don't even know you're coming. Now, you're supposed to have just arrived in town. Irv, where's the suitcase? Would you bring out the suitcase? What a piddly little suitcase for this family. Now, Irv Atkins has a special car waiting outside, big enough for Ted to get into, because you have 2 cars, have you, Irv? He rides in one and she rides in the other. And you'll be driven out to this house a few blocks away. Now, Dr. George, your husband will stay in the car, and you go up alone and knock on the door. When somebody answers, you tell them, your friends are their pals and so forth and so on. When they ask you to in, you yell out to your new husband to bring the bags and come on up. You see, he's down there. They haven't seen him yet. Let's hear you yell. Like, come on in, honey. This is the place. Real loud.
Come on in, honey. This is the place.
That's good. See, now, Ted, when you hear that, you come lumbering up the front walk and then go right in the house. Go right in the house. Take the door with you. And, Miss George, you tell the people in the house not to worry, that he's a real nice husband. Ted, you go on into the bedroom, take off your shoes, and stretch out on the bed. Be friendly, run your feet through the wall a few times, try the room on for size. Miss George, what do you think this poor family who doesn't even know what's going to happen here, what'll they be doing?
Is there any way we can resuscitate them?
When you see what happens when you have a doctor on the show? These big, long words. Resuscitate, yes, you as a doctor will be needed. And they may call the cops, because you never know how things like this work out. Don't worry, Ted.
Those big 38s, they make me equal.
No, the cops will take one look at you and they'll go back on some other beat. Now, Miss George, if they do get very huffy about you coming in, tell them your last trump card. You say that you and your new husband are tired. You've looked every place for a place to stay, and you're real tired because you're expecting a little stranger. Did I say a little stranger? Well, anyhow, after you've played as much of this terrible joke as you can on them, you come back to CBS, ask them to come back with you, and we'll give them a more pleasant surprise, okay?
All right.
I think you'll have fun, Miss George. It's a new experience for you and for them, too. Ted and everybody, say goodbye to them, audience. There they go. At the beginning of People Are Funny tonight, we sent a single woman out to drop in on a strange family in Hollywood who didn't know they were coming and pretend she knew friends of theirs who'd asked her to drop in on them. And to make it more fun, we sent along with her a 9-foot giant from the Ringling Brothers Circus to pose as her husband. They're back now, so send Mrs. George, our doctor gal, in with her husband, and look at the family they brought in with them. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people living in one of the houses. Miss George? Let's find out the sequence of events. Miss George, you were driven out to this neighborhood. You went up to this house, knocked on the door by yourself.
Yes.
Who answered the door?
Mr. Waymar.
Mr. who?
Waymar.
Waymar. And what did you say?
I said that the Lentos there in Cincinnati were good friends of us, and they told us when we got here to be sure to look them up.
Did they seem surprised at the name?
Well, a little bit, and he said, well, come on in right away.
Oh, they invited you right in.
Away.
There was no
Right
hesitation.
Away. He said that they were among their best friends, and there's nothing they wouldn't do for a friend of the Lentos.
Oh, so you established yourself real solid.
That's right.
Then you turned around and yelled for your husband to come in.
That's right.
What did they do when they saw him, 9 feet tall, walking up the aisle? Huh?
Nobody could say a word but Mr. Waymire, and he was really brave about it.
What did he say?
Well, he just went right on talking. They were just as polite as they could be. They tried to pretend that he was just no taller than this.
You mean they pretended that he was a normal-sized fella?
Yes, they just pretended it.
Well, now, how did they react when you said that you might be there for a few days?
Well, they sort of looked at each other, but they said, well, any friend of the Landos, they had a lot of neighbors come in, too, and they all wanted to know if we were going to spend the night.
Did you ever have to go so far, Miss George, as to say you were expecting a little stranger?
No.
You didn't do that. You didn't have to, because, well, as a matter of fact, these folks were so nice to you. I'm going over and chat with them. You are Mrs.?
That's right.
Mrs. who?
Mrs. Waymire.
And you were home, of course. What
Yes.
were you doing when this happened?
Well, I was just sitting there.
Had you eaten dinner?
Yes. And
Huh?
no, we hadn't eaten dinner as yet. Terry and I were going out for dinner.
Well, you see, I don't blame you for not knowing at this point whether you've eaten dinner or not. After what's happened to you tonight.
It shouldn't happen to a dog.
What business are you in, sir?
I'm a salesman with Wilshire Club.
Uh-huh. And your name is,
Terry Waymire,
how old are you, Terry?
18.
18. Well, what were your reactions when you saw this giant walk in?
I didn't know what to do.
Well, you were real polite.
Oh, yes.
Were you expecting them to really stay, Mrs. Waymire?
Well, when Terry asked him to stay overnight, I looked at her. I thought, well, where am I going to put him?
You
Well,
need
I didn't have a bed that he could sleep in. And I started to shake. I'm still shaking. But I was going to put him up. I mean, on the floor.
In other words, what you mean is you were going to put him down.
I sure was.
Here's the young son. What's your name?
Ed.
Ed, what were you doing when this started out, when it happened? Were you just sitting there?
Homework.
Homework. Oh, your homework is suffering tonight. Were you willing to have him stay overnight?
Yes.
Well, I think you folks proved something very interesting tonight. We're always on this show proving that people are funny. But I think this family has proved that people are pretty wonderful, too, and hospitable and real kind-hearted. And to be confronted by this giant and this stranger and to have them come in. Miss George, don't you agree?
I surely do. I always thought that the South was the place where hospitality reigned supreme, but I think it's out here, too.
Well, this is, of course, this is the South. This is Southern California.
I meant the deep South.
The deep South. Well, this
deep
is the
South.
southern part of Hollywood. As a matter of fact, Mr. and Mrs. Waymire, for being so nice and for coming back over here, I tell you what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to give each of them a 21-inch television set. What do you think of that, huh? With panoramic vision. You glad? And you're a wonderful-looking family, and Miss George, you happy?
Yes.
All right, now.
I don't know. This is a dream.
But on Tuesday nights, you listen to radio.
Well, we always do.
All right. I don't want to lose you. Goodbye to all of you, and thanks for proving that people are funny.
Welcome back. I enjoyed this. There's clearly an element of curiosity, of experimentation, and just trying to find out what people will do. And sometimes that sort of thing can leave you disillusioned, but not in this case, and it does give some insight into how people related to each other and would try to do right, even if it really put them out. And I definitely can understand the feeling of Mrs. Waymire when confronted with this really challenging situation. She was going to give them a space on the floor. Hopefully, they had somewhere with enough space for them. And they were definitely good sports, and I appreciated Mr. Linkletter, really trying to make sure they were not upset. By all accounts, he was a really nice person. He's probably best remembered for his interviews with kids and asking them these questions that elicited these hilarious responses. And I think there's a sense in his manner that he wants to have fun, but he never wants to be mean or just embarrass somebody for the sake of doing it and for people to walk away with a smile. One thing that's also interesting is the prizes that are given out on so many of these older radio programs. The prizes are nice. A 21-inch television was certainly a good prize during the era, but rarely was the prize something big that was going to change your life. At least not in the early days. Mostly it was a chance to win a little something nice, or maybe a few $100s, be on the radio and have some fun. Or if it was people or funny, also have the opportunity to maybe also learn a little bit about human nature and how people really were. It's time for me to close up the old snack wagon, but don't worry, we'll be back with another serving of old-time radio goodness before you know it. If you want to enjoy some of our longer form podcasts, you can feast away at my website at greatdetectives.net. Your emails are also welcome at adam@snackwagon.net.
The Old Time Radio Snack Wagon comes to you from Boise, Idaho. Your host is Adam Graham. Sound production is by Rhines Media, LLC. You can listen to past episodes of the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon as well as connect on social media at our website at snackwagon.net. Email suggestions for episodes to adam@snackwagon.net. This has been the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon.
Until next time, goodbye.